today, our interview will be with a very successful businessman, Kevin Green. Croeso, Kevin, i'r studio. Diolch am ymuno gyda fi.
Diolch, Angharod. Thank you.
Really looking forward to hearing your story, Kevin, and how you've become a successful businessman. So tell me, what made you think, what was the point where you realised you wanted to be a businessman?
I think it was back in my 19-year-old to 20-year-old era. I was working on my father's dairy farm, and dairy farming didn't really appeal to me. And I was in the milking shed one day, and the cow behind me lifted her tail and coughed and pooed at the same time, and it went all over me, you know, and that was something which I didn't like too much. It stunk. And as it turned cold running down the back of my neck, I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to do this any longer. I don't want to work for somebody else, you know.
Right.
And it inspired me to look around and think about setting up my own business. But it was some years later that I actually kick-started that. So I was a bit of a slow starter, I'm afraid.
All right. So what did you do in that time? Did you continue with the dairy farming with the cows?
I did. I went to manage a farm down in the West Country for Mr. Lawrence of Trill Farm Dairies, and did that very successfully. And unfortunately then, by the age of 22, my sister passed away. She was only 20 and I was 22. We shared our birthdays on the same day, 2 years apart. So that really sped up my need for becoming an entrepreneur. I wanted to prove myself, because I think for her, you know, her choice was taken away, and I realized life could be short. And I thought, right, I'm going to do something with my life, you know. I don't know what it was going to be, because I've always been a bit thick in school, you know. Academia hasn't been my strength at all. And so I didn't have a clue what it would be at that time, but I wanted to have a go at something.
Right, and sometimes you need a knock in life, don't you, for you to appreciate how precious life is, and to give you that.
Yeah, I suppose I don't suppose you have to go through pain to achieve, but a lot of entrepreneurs that I know, including myself, have.
Yes.
And we started from meagre beginnings, you know. Things weren't easy at the beginning at all.
Right.
And it's much easier to go and have a job somewhere, you know, but...
Yes, to have your regular income.
Yeah, I mean, that's a safety thing, as people think, but these days I would say that's turned on its head, because if you're in a job today, you could be sacked any minute, especially if you're in retail or manufacturing. The robots are taking over manufacturing, and online buying is knocking out retail. So I think you really are wise if you're thinking of setting up your own business. It's more secure and actually less risk in the end. Then
So were you nervous about setting up your own business?
I was extremely nervous because my parents weren't supportive. Then I got married, and my then wife, who I was in farming still, was unsupportive as well. But I won a farming scholarship, a Nuffield scholarship, and travelled the world then when I was 37 years old. So from that point, it totally changed.
Right. And you said you weren't very academic in school. Do you feel that held you back a bit, or did that give you that much more drive to prove yourself?
It held me back in the fact I felt like I couldn't achieve things, because one of the things that stuck in my mind was from my careers advisor, Mr. Wilson. And I didn't attend school much because I didn't really get on with it too well. I'm a bit dyslexic as well. So Mr. Wilson said, what do you want to be when you grow up and leave school? I said, a millionaire. And he said, well, how are you going to do that? I said, I don't know, Mr. Wilson. And he said to me, well, don't set your sights too high so that you won't disappoint yourself, you know. And I thought, you basket, you know what I mean?
So
I'm going to prove you wrong.
How old were you then?
I was 15 then.
Right.
So some years later, I went to find Mr. Wilson. It's quite an interesting outcome.
And what did you tell him?
Well, he was first of all, he was working on a biscuit factory line in Forest Fach in Swansea at the time, and I just appeared on a programme called The Secret Millionaire on Channel 4. This was in 2009, and shortly after that, I went to hunt him down and to thank him, because he motivated me. I wanted to prove that idiot wrong, you know, as I thought. So I went to see him and I said, look, I want to thank you. He said, why? He said, you've done quite well for yourself. I said, yes, it's all down to you. I said, because I wanted to prove you wrong. He said, Green, you just got lucky.
Oh, no.
Yes. So I thought, you know, I think one thing you have to bear in mind, not everybody's going to be supportive or think as positively as you are, and that was a big lesson for me back then.
Yes, I can imagine. So you proved him wrong. That must have been a nice feeling for you.
Oh, it was like getting, you know what I mean?
Did you watch the programme?
I did watch the programme with some friends, and I was quite embarrassed, but I thoroughly enjoyed the experience because it made me look at life a slightly different way again. I really appreciate where I've come from and where some people haven't really got the drive perhaps that I have, and they don't realise that they could achieve very well. I mean, anybody watching this, anybody can set up a business. It's just having the guts to have a go with it, Worst that can happen is you fail. Well, at least you've had a go,
Exactly. So you said you waited until you were 37.
Yeah.
Is that right? Tell me what you did in your 20s then and your 30s.
I was farming. I was, lucky enough to get the job away from home because I had a bit of a clash with my father, and I actually became homeless in my late teens. I was on the streets, so it wasn't a very good move on my part. I'd actually been to college and learned how to do farming properly in Golden Grove or Gelli Aur Agricultural College, and I brought the ideas home to my dad, and Dad didn't like them too well, and it ended up because I was frustrated, I think, we clashed both physically and he said, you either do things my way or it's the highway. So
you're very similar, you.
We have been, we're best of friends now, but at the time I was a bit, when you're like, just university age, you think you know everything, don't you? And I thought I knew everything, and that he was wrong and I was right. And I left home and no plan, and because I quickly ran out of the little money I had, and I was begging lorry drivers for the chips off their plate in the transport cafes. I was down in Yeovil and Sherborne on the streets there, and for quite a few months, and it was quite an eye-opening time for me,
Right. So what was the turning point there for you then? Did you decide to go home, or did you? No,
I was too proud to go home. So the first interview I went for, which was this farm management job, which was a bit above my capability, I went for it and I got it. And I thought, oh, damn, what do I do now? You know what I mean? But I bought a suit for £2 from a charity shop, only where people had given me the money. And I went to this interview, and I can't read or write very well. So I listened to the audio book of the John Nick's book of farm management. And as luck, the questions that came up were very easy to answer because I had this knowledge from the book,
Right.
And even though I knew the book bit, I didn't know all the general rest of it very well. So I managed then to meet up with another manager who was within the farming network there, and learnt from him. So I got a bit resourceful that way, and did it very well. So carried on through until my sister died, and then I went back on the home farm and made up amends with my father, and stayed there till the age of 37.
Right.
Building that farm up from 40 cows to 400 cows, and got married, 3 beautiful children, which became hugely important in my life, of course.
Yes, absolutely. So what happened at 37 then? What made you decide? Because I could hear from you, you're so determined and passionate in what you did.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I'd done that bit of farming, and it's primary production, and it's not always the best place to be in business, I know now, but back then I felt frustrated because I'd taken that as far as it could go. I didn't really want to have all the hard physical work again of starting another farm. I wanted to look out there and see what else was out there, and that's when I won the scholarship, the Nuffield Scholarship, to look around, and that was the biggest eye-opener. I urge people, if they're watching this, to go for the scholarships, whether it's a Churchill or otherwise, because to travel the world and learn,
amazing experience.
It's beautiful, and on that journey, it was 9 months in different countries. I saw that property was something I resonated with. I liked the thought of buying a stinky, smelly home and fixing it up into a nice house for people to live,
Right.
Didn't have a clue really how to start or anything else, but I decided that's what I was going to do and learn about it. And it all started at the age of 37, and it grew very quickly, actually.
Right. So how did you go about that then?
Well, I went on a 3-day training course with a gentleman called Robert Kiyosaki, who was new to UK at that time. He'd come over with this American accent and had these ideas about putting property structures together. And I went on the course. I learned a lot, and I learned the rest by doing, really. Made a couple of mistakes, but never, touch wood, lost any money with it, So it's just, I suppose, having a go and knowing that you're dealing with assets. And with a house, the worst thing is it could go down in value after you buy it. Well, I suppose if you rent it out, I was thinking in my mind, and hold on to it, it's going to come back up at some stage anyway.
Yeah.
So I thought, what's the worst that can happen, But I did manage to set up a business called Repossession Rescue. Right. The website's repossessionrescue.net, and that was my first business where I learnt how to buy severely under fair market value.
Right.
And that bode very well for me. And the second company I put up was Moving Money Limited, And that's a peer-to-peer business. It's like its own bank, and it matches up people that want high interest rate on their money with the deals that I was doing. So I had unlimited access to capital of other people's money. So putting those two elements together of buying way under fair market value with repo rescue, stopping repossession on assets and really obtaining that asset for the rest of the debt that was left to clear on it, and then put in the source of money with it, that was a game changer for me, you know. And it
was a win-win then. And once you started buying these properties, I can imagine it'd be very addictive. You just wanted another one and another one and another one.
Yes, it's great fun, you know. And I don't sleep much. I don't need to. I get too excited. You know, life's too short. So it ended up, we bought so many that somebody told me the other day, you've got more than anybody else in UK by a single name. Right. And so we've got quite a few now. Yes. And the important part of it is we've cleared down the debt because we trade so much as well. We use the profit from the trade to clear down investment debt. And I've had some quite good help along the way with advice. So I think it's, you know, having a go has turned out very well for me.
So you said you had this vision in mind where you wanted to buy a property, a grotty property, do it up.
Yeah.
So did you do them up yourself? Do you renovate them yourself?
Yeah.
People in?
The first two is a good question. The first two I did myself. And I don't think that was a bad thing because I learned how to do it properly. I still fix things with my hands today. I like practical stuff. But when you scale up, you can't do that really. You need to get the professionals in, turn it around fast. And that's what we do today. We've got 4 build teams that are constant on the deals. And, you know, we add value. That's all we're doing, buying under value, adding value, and then either selling the properties to the public or renting them out. Right.
Did you find any challenges on the way, as in when you were doing the renovations up yourself? You know, how did you teach yourself?
Yeah, YouTube was really good. Right. So a lot of it is self-taught. I didn't have the good fortune of going to an intensive training course, although I run them myself now and help people. So I didn't have that advantage when I was coming through. So I had to learn by, you know, trial and mistakes, so trial and error really. Yes. And I made some big mistakes, and they were costly when on the refurbs. Can you share any of them with us? Well, with a property, you've got first fix and second fix, and you know, I'd end up running the electrical wires and the pipes to save money in completely the wrong place. You know, so they all have to be ripped back out and then get new pipes and new wire, and very costly. So you learn to bring the experts in and do those kind of
need to.
Yeah, and it's got to be certified and done properly anyway. I thought I could do everything myself, and my weakness, I think, in the early years was human resources management. I couldn't manage people very well. Right. And the only way you can grow business significantly is, you know, to know how to handle people, handle yourself first, and how to handle other people well, you know. Absolutely.
And it's getting the right people in your team as well that you can trust and you can delegate jobs to and know that they're going to do it right, isn't it?
Yeah, I might be devil's advocate. I'd say trust no one and write contracts, you know, because trust needs to be built, you know, and I've found that I've over-trusted people in the past and been too kind and giving, and then you get turned over, especially with builders. Well, let's say they turn up on a Monday and they won't be there, they'll be on another job. So we do it totally the other way around, where it's all contractually engaged now, and they get bonuses for early completion. Right. And I buy all the materials because I can get a cheaper price on them, only pay them labour, things like that, you know, that in my business, you get it a bit more systemized and a bit more structured. So you're still very much in control of the business. I pull the trust back in. I trust myself very well, you know. Yeah. And I think with other people, the trust builds over time, but I think you need to really control the overseeing of what goes on. Even today, no invoice gets paid in the 28 companies that I run without me seeing that invoice first. So that would be screenshot and sent to me if I'm not in UK at that time. Right. And if I am in the office, you know, I'll physically look at them, but that would not be paid. They're all paid on a Friday. That would not be paid unless I've given it the tick. Right. And it just is, I think you need to oversee properly if you've got business in place. Yes. How do you manage that then, though? Because obviously your time management must be excellent for you to go through all those invoices. Yeah, I mean, it takes me probably about 10 minutes. There's a lot of repeat ones, and there's two things I do on a Friday is I look at the invoices and I look at the money at bank on the previous week because we consolidate the accounts every week, and then I look at the P&L, the profit and loss. So I'm looking at two things at once. I'm looking at authorising the payments for the coming week, and I'm looking at the previous week's performance, and I manage the businesses from that stance. So if there's more money at bank, I want to know what we've done very well, because it's not me doing it, it's all the teams out there that work with me. And it may be that we've had extra income. It could be we got less expenses. There could be something not working so well. The figures never lie, you know. So by doing a weekly overview of that, it really does bring it to the front of my mind, you know. So, and with the invoices, you know, checking those off at the same time, it's just my, you know, hour of fun looking at figures. I quite like figures now.
Right. Do you ever challenge an invoice?
Yes, I mean, there have been mistakes, and not all of them I would know to the last detail, but some of them I've got a very good memory, so some of them I would challenge. You know, if the point's put in the wrong place, it can be quite a different outcome.
Yes.
So I will query some of them, and then Diane Hall, who's my Chief Financial Officer, she'll double check, and we've got another assistant that works with her, Catherine. Right. So they will check through it. I think you know Catherine, actually.
Yeah, I know Catherine.
Yeah. So you know, that is something that I just make sure that nothing slips through the net, you know.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that, you know, you don't sleep, it's a waste of time. I'm exactly the same as you. How do you manage to switch off then? Is there something that you enjoy doing that you can switch off from business? Yeah,
I suppose I love motorbike riding. I never actually switch off. I tried switching off once, and I've never been so bored in all my life, you know. I imagine myself drinking a mojito cocktail on St. Lawrence Gap Beach in Barbados. I'd been there once before, and I thought, and I got to that point where I was financially free, and I went to the beach and I had the cocktail in my hand, and I was like, well, hey, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then a week later, of still being on that beach and not doing any work at all, I'd never been so bored in all my life, you know. So from that point forward, and that was back in 2004, I remember it well. From that point forward, you know, I've always been active both with the business and charities, but I know you fairly well from the community that we're in, and you know that I have a lot of fun as well. Yes. So, you know, we do as a team have fun. I've got a house in Spain. I'm over there a lot, and my family are all grown up now, my 3 children, and you know, the youngest is 21, youngest son, and the oldest son is 23, the middle child, and then my daughter's 25, and they all work alongside me as well. Excellent. They're all in the property game. Right. We also trade a bit with gold and silver bullion, and we also trade a bit with gemstones. So I'm very much asset based in what I do. I buy something cheaper than I can sell it for. I'd never buy something today unless I can sell it that same day for more money, you know. Right. And I've got to prove that to myself. And kids, I call them kids, young adults now, they've all got their own partners as well. Exactly the same, you know. Right. How did you manage then when you were starting that, when you were 37, with the children smaller, managing that work-life balance? That was tough. I suppose it helped because I got unmarried. Unfortunately, my wife at the time, who's from farming background, didn't support the fact I wanted to go into property. Right. And she basically said, if you go into property, I'm not going to be around. And unfortunately, a couple of years later, that's what happened. We split, part our ways. But it meant that the kids were with me for a week and then with her for a week from a young age, you know. And as luck would have it, that's the best outcome for them, you know. Yes. And so then you've got the relationship and and you have that week then when they know they're not with you. Yeah. And that's so I would go flat out in that week. Even the week they're with me, I'd be chucking them in the back of the car, and we'd be, you know, tramping through stinky, smelly properties. So they've seen it from, you know, the front end and the rough end, and then when we had trouble with tenants because it doesn't always run easy, they'd be there seeing somebody who's had a bit too much of this or a bit too much of something up their nose, you know. Yeah. So they've seen the reality of it all. So it's been good for them. It's been a good experience. Yeah. Do you feel that's where they've had that passion from, to be in the business with you now, because they've seen it, they've been part of it with you? Yes, I think so. All 3 of them never went for a job. They didn't want to do that. I think they see there's something Richard Branson taught me. He's been a bit of a guide and mentor to me. He said, roti is very important, not roti the pastry, you know, but roti as far as return on time invested. So I don't mind putting in huge effort and time to set something up, but I try and set it up where then it runs pretty much on its own. And the kids saw that and they compared that to a job, and they know the kind of incomes that you can get on your return on time when you set up good business. And it was no-brainer for them, you know. Right. My son at the age of 15, he's dyslexic like me, the oldest of the two, he bought his first house at the age of 15.
15?
Yeah, and he funded it himself. He was selling ice creams through an ice cream trailer he bought off eBay.
Right.
And he bought a house in Trimsaran, not too far from here, in South Wales. And with the cash profit, you know, I had to guarantee the title, obviously, because he was too young. Yeah. But, you know, that's a big success story for me to see that. And he inspired the other two. My daughter went to university in Bath Spa and studied business and media and did very well. She passed with a 2-1. But it really cheesed me off on Angharod. You know, we're in a university here now, but I had a bit of a gripe about the business degree because it didn't even teach people, the students, about the importance of employers' liability insurance.
Right.
There's a few other points which are fundamental to what we need. It's a legal requirement in business, you know.
And they didn't teach it.
They didn't even teach it in the syllabus.
I'm sure she knows it now.
Oh,
and your 2 cents to it.
Yeah, for sure. You know, so, you know, practical business, I think, is very important.
Yeah, they've got the hands-on experience now and an excellent dad who guides them and shows them the way.
You know, the mum as well. We get on very well, my ex-wife, and for the last few years, her full-time job or business is property.
Right.
You know, so she's totally turned round on her thinking, and her partner now, Simon, exactly the same way. My partner in property and makes a lot of money out of Airbnb.
Excellent.
You know, so I think it rubs off a little bit if you're rubbing shoulders with somebody who's fairly successful. It can rub off, you know.
Yes, definitely. You mentioned Richard Branson earlier as a role model. Would you say he's the main role model, or has there been anybody else in your life that's inspired you?
Yeah, in my early years, he was definitely the main role model, you know. The other people that's inspired me are my mother and father. You know, how can I say? My mother's such a kind person with people. My father's such a straight down the line, regimented person, you know. They both have the massive qualities, and it's lovely to see them. The last 7 years they've been full-time in property as well, so big turnaround in the family. Yes,
as well. Brilliant. That's excellent to hear. Any other famous people that you've actually met? Have you met Richard Branson? Yeah,
I mean, I've met Richard a number of times. Unbeknown to me, you know, we were in West Wales. I think we've only got electric. We've just got electric here sometimes, something in the big world. But, you know, I ended up going into speaking on stage, and alongside Richard, Sir Richard, and a few other big names, you know, and that was quite a turnaround for me. I interviewed him back in 1999 for my scholarship, and basically the scholarship was looking at, can entrepreneurs be born, or are they made? Is it genetics or environment that shapes people, you know?
Right.
And
what was the outcome of that?
Well, you don't have to be born was the outcome, you know, so, you know, it's a chance for everybody.
There we are, excellent. So that's what our guide to our viewers today then.
Yeah, I think you need a bit of hoil, you know, you need a bit of drive, and whatever does that for you, whether it's the money that motivates you, for some it isn't for me, it's just the achievement, you know, of doing something I love and serving people. I love taking something or someone and making it or them better, and this is why the speaking took off, because I like inspiring people from stage, you know, short little sound bites it was to begin with, and then we morphed into our own training company, and I was speaking back alongside Sir Richard, and kind of, you know, I did that for 7 years and then knocked it on the head 3 years ago. So I was just going all over the world and it was too much then, you know.
Right. So where's the best place you've been in the world?
It's Gaya, which is a little island off Kota Kinabalu near Malaysia. So Gaya, Gaya Island is like fantasy island. It's like the Maldives, but cheaper. I like value, you know. I'm still tight with my money. And it's just, there's no cars allowed there. You fly into Kota Kinabalu, you've got to take then a 40-minute boat ride out to this exclusive island. It's a bit like Necker with Richard, you know. Right. And everything's done for you. It's just golf carts you go around with. They've got butterflies like this size flying around in the rainforest, which is in the middle of the island. It's just a beautiful place, you know. Right. So I do like going over there from time to time. That's
your favourite place?
The favourite place in the world, without doubt, yes.
Is there anywhere you'd like to go that you haven't been yet?
Yeah, I'd like to go to Fiji Islands and have a look there. I will be in New Zealand shortly. and I probably will pop over. My partner's got plenty of time as well to come, so we might just have a little nose around there. She's itching to see it as well, so we'll probably get a little flight. It's not a long flight from Australia or New Zealand into Fiji Islands and have a look there, because we've had magnificent feedback about it. So I like out of the way places, you know.
Yes, because I've got this long bucket list going of things I want to do and achieve. Is that what, have you got anything else on, have you got a bucket list going or anything on there that you want to do?
Yeah, there's always things that I want to achieve, you know, and I think the big one for me was getting security for the kids. That was achieved a long time ago. And then secondly, to see them enjoying what they do, and they absolutely love it, you know, and they're inspiring other people now. But for myself, I think a lot of it is to learn to value quality time. And that's what I've been doing lately, is just having a lot of time throttling back from main frontline business. And what I found by doing that, the businesses actually grow faster. So I think I need to throttle back a bit more. And, you know, take more time, go into the exotic places and just enjoying life a little bit as well. Alongside, I do enjoyment alongside business, and it becomes part of what I do. People say, you know, why don't you have holidays as such? Well, I suppose every day is a holiday, isn't it, when you love what you do?
Yes, exactly.
And when I'm flying into Asia to buy gemstones, I'll spend a week there, and then I'll bring them back and sell them in the jewellery quarter in Birmingham for 5 times what I paid for them. Right. It's quite a lucrative holiday as well, in inverted commas. So, you know, things like that. I love to integrate business with travel and time, and I suppose I'm doing a lot more of that now, where I just are giving me time when I
just you need it, because you know you've obviously worked very hard over the years to get to where you are today. Can you ever see yourself retiring, switching off completely?
No, I'll never retire, that's for sure. But what's woke me up recently, my dad has contracted Parkinson's. He's 81 now, and you know, he's never really gone around the world much. He's gone on a 2-hour flight, and that's it, you know. So you know, he said to me the other day, he said, look, you enjoy yourself, because it's something I didn't do. So I think the message from Dad is like, you can get old quick enough, can't you? And it's great doing the business, but enjoying alongside it is very, very important. It's not all about money. You know, you can be the richest person in the graveyard and die early, can't you? Exactly. But I'm quite fortunate. I'm 55 now, and I never get ill, you know, and I think it's because of the outlook that one has. If one's got a good outlook on life and doesn't get hugely stressed by stupid things, you know, well then it keeps illness a little bit away as well. Yeah,
you definitely got that, and you got that positive mental attitude and that drive and the enthusiasm, and it is contagious, isn't it?
Well, it takes one to know one, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. So where can you spend your time between Spain and the UK? Yeah. Is that going to continue that way, or can you see you spending more time in Spain over years?
Yeah, I've got more and more time in Spain, hence the skin colour here. It's not from Wales directly. But I love Wales so much, I won't move over there full time, you know, and I do like the connection. We have performance review meetings with the team, and most of the team are in UK. So it's important for me to meet everybody on a regular basis, and just, they call me the head of happiness, because I say, you happy? And if they're not, I want to know why, you know, because you can change structures to incentivize people. And something I do in business, which people might find interesting, is, and the idea came from Sir Richard, is not to give away ownership of your business or take it from anybody else unless you really have to. But profit sharing is brilliant. So if you can give a split of profits on a business, that seems to work well. It does for our team very, very well. So we've only got 5 people full-time employed. All the rest, there's 189 in the group working with me, are all on profit share. So the harder they work, the more the business earns, the bigger share they have. And obviously my share goes up as well. So everybody wins.
Right. And that motivates them then, and they work hard.
Absolutely. I mean, so what some of those individuals are getting, even at a young age, is far higher net money than they'd have in any job, you know, any other job, because we're doing a profit share. So they're writing a contract and they take X% of that business. Brilliant. As far as profit share, not the ownership. Right?
Yes. So you've got you just mentioned that with the tradesmen as well, that they're on a bonus if they complete the job in time, which is
and a penalty if they're late, you know. So it works both ways. There's got to be a win-win situation, hasn't it?
Yeah, brilliant. The model seems to work really well for you.
Yeah.
So where can you see yourself going? What does the future hold? Any more properties?
Yes, we've moved more into the commercial sector with properties, so morphed into that a lot more recently, bigger buildings and long FRIs, full repairing and insuring leases on them. So it's a bit more passive than tenanted residential homes. The other thing that's really growing is we buy bare land, we get planning permission on it, and then we sell it to the big house builders like Bellway, Persimmon, etc. And that's very profitable and it's great fun.
Right.
And that side of it I'm focusing on more, really because we can now bankroll it. We're in a position where we can hold that over from the profits from the other businesses. So it's fitting together quite nicely now.
Okay, so you're always looking for opportunities.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
You mentioned just now you've got commercial properties for businesses. I have seen one that you're advertising today, and I quite fancy there's a gym bar, so I'll have a chat with you later
okay.
about that.
We've just bought that one, if it's the one you're referring to, the old Seawards Fruiters, so that's in a prime location.
Nice gin bar there.
A gin bar, okay.
Yes,
when you say that, somebody has already approached us
I can imagine.
this morning with a view to a wine bar in there, so I can't say who, but they've gone to the council now to make sure the change of use is in line with what the council would like to see there. So watch this space, it could well happen.
Right, for the battle of hands. Thank you ever so much, Kevin, for coming into the studio to share this absolutely inspirational story. It really has been inspiring for me, and I've had some great ideas from you. Diolch, Kevin.